Rampage Jackson addresses MMA Guru, defamation claims, and old controversies. Rampage Jackson recently went live on stream to address the ongoing drama involving Raja Psycho Stu and the MMA Guru. According to Rampage, the entire situation spiraled out of control because of careless actions that could have been avoided. He pointed directly to Stu, saying that if Stu had simply kept his beer can to himself, none of this would have escalated. Rampage then shifted his focus to the MMA Guru, who he claims has crossed a dangerous line with some of his recent comments. According to Rampage, the Guru's statements have opened him up to potential defamation of character, as he has been bringing up Rampage's past legal troubles and twisting the facts in a way that paints him unfairly. The controversy stems from Rampage's 2008 arrest, where he was involved in a police chase that resulted in multiple car accidents. At the time, reports claimed that a pregnant woman suffered a miscarriage as a result of the incident. However, Rampage strongly disputes that version of events. He explained on stream that while he did hit a side view mirror during the incident, it was not a high-speed chase, nor was there a miscarriage directly connected to the crash. He insisted that much of what is said about that day is exaggerated and misleading. Rampage clarified that he never served jail time for the incident. Instead, he was sentenced to 200 hours of community service, which he spent speaking to school children about life choices, responsibility, and the dangers of reckless behavior. He emphasized that he took full accountability for his actions at the time and has already addressed the issue in multiple interviews over the years. For Rampage, revisiting that chapter now feels unnecessary and unfair, especially when critics twist the facts for clicks or views. Addressing MMA Guru directly, Rampage criticized him for trying to dig up the past and use it against him. He accused the Guru of insecurity, pointing out that he often hides behind his commentary while taking shots at professional fighters who risk their lives in the cage. Rampage described the Guru as someone who constantly wears the same beanie, radiates negative energy, and projects his own self-hatred onto others. According to Rampage, people like the Guru love MMA but resent fighters because they themselves cannot do what fighters do inside the octagon. Rampage also commented on the toxic direction the situation has taken. He expressed frustration over people bringing race and personal threats into the discussion, saying it has gone far beyond what is acceptable. For Rampage, the bottom line is simple: Stu should not have introduced alcohol into the locker room environment, and critics like MMA Guru should not distort past events to attack his character. In closing, Rampage acknowledged that he has made mistakes, but reminded viewers that he has taken responsibility for them. What bothers him most is when people attempt to rewrite history in order to damage his reputation. He stood firm that while criticism comes with being in the spotlight, spreading misinformation and fueling negativity is not only wrong but potentially harmful. Rampage Jackson's message was clear: he may have a past, but he's already paid his dues and moved forward. As for the MMA Guru, Rampage believes his recent behavior has crossed the line into defamation, and he isn't afraid to call it out publicly. Moving to our next news. Robert Whittaker admits reclaiming UFC middleweight title feels like a pipe dream. Former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker has opened up about his current mindset and career trajectory, offering an honest reflection on where he stands in the division. Speaking in a recent interview with Submission Radio, Whittaker admitted that the idea of reclaiming the middleweight title now feels more like a pipe dream than a realistic goal. Whittaker is currently on a 2-fight skid. Last October, he suffered a first-round submission loss at the hands of Khamzat Chimaev, a fight that raised questions about his ability to contend with the new wave of elite grapplers in the division. Most recently, in July, Whittaker dropped a razor-close split decision to Reinier de Ridder. While many fans and analysts felt it could have gone either way, the official result was another setback. Reflecting on these losses, Whittaker was candid. He explained that, despite being competitive in the fights, every defeat moves him further away from a title shot. The belt feels like a pipe dream at the moment, Whittaker admitted. Yeah, it was a close fight with RDR, but at the end of the day, it's another loss. That pushes me back further than I want to be from the title. For the 33-year-old Australian, this realization has shifted his perspective. Rather than focusing solely on climbing back to championship contention, he now wants to embrace the journey itself. Right now, my trajectory has kind of changed, Whittaker said. I want a few more fights, but I want to enjoy them. I want to enjoy the journey. I want to enjoy the fight camps, fight week, and the fights themselves. Whittaker emphasized that he wants his family to be more involved in his career moving forward. The veteran fighter, who has long been known for his humility and dedication, expressed a desire for his children to witness and experience the behind-the-scenes side of his profession. I want my family to be a part of it, he explained. I want my boys and my kids to see the show, to see the background of the big corporation that is the UFC. It's the most professional MMA organization in the world, and I want them to be able to share in that experience. These comments reveal a shift in Whittaker's priorities. Once consumed by the goal of reclaiming the middleweight crown, he now seems more focused on savoring the final chapters of his career. Rather than viewing his current skid as a career-ending downturn, Whittaker is choosing to approach it with perspective, maturity, and gratitude for what he has already achieved. Whittaker remains a respected figure in the MMA world, known for his technical striking, durability, and professionalism. While he may not see the championship belt as an immediate reality, his name still carries weight in the middleweight division. Fans continue to admire his honesty and his willingness to face challenges head-on, both inside and outside the octagon. As Robert Whittaker enters this new phase of his career, the focus is no longer only on championships. Instead, it's about legacy, family, and finding fulfillment in the sport he has dedicated his life to. Whether or not he ever wears UFC gold again, Whittaker's impact on the middleweight division and on MMA as a whole is undeniable. Moving to our next news, Justin Gaethje's clash with Tony Ferguson in 2020 was one of the most memorable moments in UFC history. Not only did Gaethje hand Ferguson a brutal TKO loss in the 5th round, but he also claimed the UFC interim lightweight championship that night. However, the road to that fight was anything but smooth. In a recent discussion, Gaethje opened up about the chaos and unpredictability leading up to the bout, and how close he came to missing out on the opportunity altogether. Gaethje revealed that the UFC initially approached him about the fight on extremely short notice. With Khabib Nurmagomedov originally scheduled to face Ferguson, the promotion suddenly needed a replacement when Khabib found himself stuck in Russia due to international travel restrictions during the global shutdown. With just 13 days' notice, the UFC asked Gaethje if he was willing to step in. At that point, Gaethje was around 182 pounds and not fully prepared for a 5-round war. Despite being in decent shape, he admitted he wasn't fight ready. "I promised myself early in my career that I would never take a late replacement fight," Gaethje explained. "I didn't want to risk going into a fight unprepared, getting tired, and not being able to perform at my best." Still, the stakes were enormous. The world of sports was shut down, and the UFC had a rare chance to host a live event that would capture global attention. Gaethje saw this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, not just to compete, but to potentially become champion. After weighing the risk, he decided to accept. Once he committed, Gaethje immediately began pushing himself in training. He and his team hit the gym hard, cutting weight and trying to sharpen his conditioning. In just a couple of days, he had dropped down from around 182 pounds to roughly 176 or 175. But then, out of nowhere, the UFC called and informed him that the fight was canceled. Frustrated, Gaethje decided to take a break. He and his cousin, who was visiting from California at the time, ordered a feast from Pizza Hut. Gaethje indulged and quickly shot back up to 184 pounds overnight. Just as he settled into the idea that the fight wasn't happening, the UFC called again the very next morning, this time to say the fight was back on. The roller coaster of emotions was overwhelming. "I was like, what the hell is going on?" Gaethje recalled. Despite the chaos, he returned to training with intensity. Luckily, the UFC rescheduled the fight slightly later, giving him 18 days to prepare instead of 13. That small adjustment made all the difference, giving Gaethje enough time to sharpen his cardio and mentally prepare for the toughest test of his career. The rest, of course, is history. On fight night, Justin Gaethje delivered one of the greatest performances of his life, dismantling Tony Ferguson with relentless precision and earning the UFC interim lightweight championship. Looking back, Gaethje's journey to that fight was as dramatic and unpredictable as the bout itself, a testament to his resilience, determination, and ability to thrive under pressure. Moving to our next news, Jon Jones, one of the most decorated fighters in UFC history, has once again managed to sidestep serious legal consequences. The former two-division UFC champion was recently facing a new set of allegations after an incident in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but prosecutors have now dismissed all charges, bringing a dramatic end to what could have been another major setback in his turbulent career. The situation unfolded on February 21st, when Jones was accused of fleeing the scene of a car accident in his hometown of Albuquerque. The accusations quickly made headlines, as the fighter's history with legal troubles has been well documented throughout his career. This particular case involved two charges, one for leaving the scene of an accident and another for allegedly using a telephone in a manner intended to terrify, threaten, intimidate, harass, annoy, or offend. The news sent shockwaves through the MMA community, with many questioning whether Jones was about to face yet another suspension or legal penalty that might derail his career once more. However, after a thorough review of the case, the Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office announced that they had reason to believe Jones's alibi defense was credible. Court documents obtained by TMZ revealed that prosecutors found inconsistencies in the original claims against Jones, ultimately determining that there was insufficient evidence to move forward with the charges. For Jones, this decision represents yet another narrow escape from potential legal trouble. Over the years, the former light heavyweight and current heavyweight star has had multiple run-ins with the law, ranging from driving under the influence and hit-and-run incidents to domestic disturbance allegations. Each case has fueled ongoing debates about Jones's personal life versus his professional legacy inside the octagon. Despite the controversies, Jones remains one of the most gifted fighters in UFC history. His resume is unmatched, boasting victories over legends like Daniel Cormier, Alexander Gustafsson, and Lyoto Machida. His recent move to heavyweight and subsequent victory over Cyril Gane in 2023 reminded fans that, regardless of the turbulence outside the cage, his skills as a fighter are still extraordinary. However, these off-the-cage issues continue to overshadow his accomplishments. Every time Jones seems poised to reclaim his place as the sport's undisputed greatest of all time, another legal entanglement threatens to tarnish his legacy. While this latest case has now been dismissed, it has reignited conversations about whether Jones will ever be able to separate his personal controversies from his professional achievements. For the moment, Jones can breathe a sigh of relief. With charges dismissed, he is free to focus entirely on his fighting career. Fans are now turning their attention to what's next for the heavyweight champion. Speculation is swirling around a potential matchup with Stipe Miocic, which could cement Jones's place at the very top of the sport. Still, the question remains, will Jon Jones finally put his off-the-cage troubles behind him for good, or will history repeat itself? Only time will tell, but for now, all charges have been dropped, and Jones has once again managed to walk away unscathed. Moving to our next news. Colby Covington has once again stirred up controversy, this time taking direct aim at fellow UFC star Dustin Poirier. During a recent Q&A session on his YouTube channel, the outspoken welterweight contender didn't hold back when addressing the possibility of a fight with Poirier, and even touched on whether he'd ever consider moving down to the lightweight division. When asked about the potential matchup, Covington immediately dismissed any likelihood of it happening, pointing fingers directly at Poirier's unwillingness to step up. According to Colby, Poirier has avoided him for years, dating all the way back to when they trained together at their old gym. He's been scared of my shadow for years, Covington claimed. Dustin knows exactly what I bring to the table. He knows he can't beat me. He knows he can't even land a lucky punch on me. That's why he won't even try. Covington contrasted Poirier's attitude with that of Jorge Masvidal, another former teammate and rival. He noted that at the very least, Masvidal stepped into the octagon with him and gave it a shot, whereas Poirier, in Colby's view, refuses to take the risk. The trash talk didn't stop there. Covington escalated his criticism by taking personal shots at Poirier's pride and legacy, saying that he's going to go into retirement knowing that I owned his soul, that he never defended his family's honor, and that he couldn't prove himself against me. He even went so far as to label Poirier Louisiana swamp trash and pathetic. This level of verbal warfare is nothing new for Covington, whose brash personality and trash-talking persona have made him one of the most polarizing figures in MMA. However, his comments about Poirier struck an especially harsh tone, leaving fans buzzing about the intensity of his remarks. The Q&A didn't just focus on his rivalry with Poirier. Another fan asked Covington whether he would ever consider moving down to lightweight, 155 pounds, to chase a second UFC belt. Colby wasted no time shutting down the idea. I wouldn't do that, he explained. I don't want to cut all that weight and live my life worrying about weight cuts instead of improving as a martial artist. My focus is on becoming better every day, honing my craft, and competing at my natural weight. Covington also addressed Islam Makhachev's past statements about potentially moving up to welterweight for a fight with him. Islam has said things about moving up to 170, but it's just talk, Covington insisted. He doesn't actually want that fight because he knows he doesn't match up well with me. Ultimately, Covington made it clear that he has no intention of changing weight classes to chase easier fights. I'm not a weight bully, he declared. I'm going to fight at 170, my real weight class, and I'll take on anybody here. I won't be dropping down to 155, bring everyone at welterweight, I'm ready. Once again, Colby Covington has kept himself in the headlines, fueling rivalries and sparking debates across the MMA community. Whether or not Dustin Poirier ever responds to the challenge, Covington has ensured that his name and his fiery words remain at the center of attention.